Hello, everyone. I am Matt, or some people call me Chewy. This is Nick, who, just for review purposes, we call the Goblin guy because he just looks like a goblin. I fuck with him about that. Pardon my French. But another movie review. Better late than ever, shall I say. And we still haven't gotten with Charles yet. He's still out in the countryside with his family, but we hope to see him soon. Um, a big movie recently came out, and I have already seen it 3 times. It's fresh in my head. Third time he came with me to see it, but this was about a month ago, and that big movie was Interstellar. Big Chris Nolan space movie. And it's huge, this film. I don't know how to describe how huge it is because it is simply huge. And it's so funny because it is like the best movie I've seen this year and one of the greatest movies I have ever seen, yet I have so much criticism on it. How does that come about? That's weird. And honestly, alright, we'll cut the chit chat. No, we're here to chit chat. Alright. Interstellar will blow you away if you like that kind of movie. If you like 2001: A Space Odyssey, I don't think it's that good. They've tried to reach that high, but didn't quite make it there, but almost. But it's that kind of blow you away type ordeal. There's okay, what goes on? Okay, Matthew McConaughey plays a former NASA pilot named Cooper. The world is dying because of a crop blight. And the only thing left is corn. Corn. Corn! And I talk about a lot of carbs. Well, as it turns out, what's left of NASA discovered a wormhole near Saturn. Now, for those of you who know your science, you know that wormholes are currently theoretical. They really do not exist, not yet at least, but if they ever do, they're not going to be naturally occurring. They will be artificial, they will be man-made. It's like that. There's just really no way it can exist in real life, but millions of years from now, I think, maybe thousands, technology we do think will be created to where we can create one. So they know that in the movie because they're like, oh, someone put that there for us. Which brings them to one criticism in terms of plot. Not so much a plot hole as much as a plot contrivance, but why in the Uncle Sam hell did these future beings, and by the way, this is a spoiler-filled review, and the movie's been out for over a month now, so deal with it. Why was it put way the fuck out to Saturn? Why couldn't they put it close to the Earth? Like by the moon, maybe? I mean, we're not physicists, all right? Me nor Nick, all right? And I'm sure most of us that love the movie that saw it aren't, but we have some knowledge. I don't think any gravity. It's not a black hole. It's a wormhole. So of course it's much smaller and a little different. I don't think it'll have any gravitational effects on the Earth and the Moon. It didn't on Saturn. Saturn is a bigger planet. It was just never explained. Which could have been a good thing because that would have been like more exposition than the film already had. And a lot of people complain about too much exposition. I didn't have a problem with the exposition. At the same time, it did feel like there was moments that maybe the audience should have figured things out for themselves, but instead characters would just bluntly explain why it is, like how relativity works, this, that. But that wasn't a problem to me. But whatever, that's minor. Everything's really minor. The movie was phenomenal. So of course, Cooper somehow, through weird coded messages from some gravitational effect, some being trying to contact him through his house, finds NASA, which is miraculously not far from his home, I don't think, and the NASA people, led by Dr. Brandt, played by the always excellent Michael Caine, didn't even know that Cooper lived not far. It's like, So he just shows up. He's like, "Oh, Koopa, what's up? Hey, could you be our pilot for this mission? You're the only pilot that can do it." And even Cooper's like, "Y'all are already planning this mission without me. I mean, what were you going to do beforehand?" "Oh, but we had no choice." It really sounds like I'm trashing the movie. I'm not. I'm just pointing out like funny little contrivances for what is overall a no pun intended stellar movie. And we're gonna get to the good stuff. I promise you. Okay. Anywho, skipping ahead, they go on their mission. They go to by Saturn. It takes 2 years. They wake up after a big cryostasis sleep in 2 years, and they see the little wormhole. And you want to talk about excellent effects and the way that it looks, especially in IMAX. If you still have a chance to see this movie while it's in its theatrical run, please pay the extra money, see it in IMAX. Chris Nolan shot a lot of scenes with the IMAX camera, and it's like, wow. Anywho, they go into this wormhole. Now they're in like a whole other galaxy. And what the trailers didn't tell you was that men were already sent through this wormhole like a decade before to survey these planets. And one of them being Dr. Mann. Like, first they go to the water planet, another scientific problem. They go to this water planet, which was considered Miller's planet. The entire planet is like 2, maybe 3 feet of water. They're able to just walk all over it. It's the planet closest to the black hole that these planets orbit around, not a sun, a supermassive black hole, which they named Gargantuan, which is cool looking, by the way. They go to this planet, and because of how close it is, the gravitational pull from the black hole causes severe time dilation. So when they're on the planet, Cooper, Amelia, played by Anne Hathaway, whose character is the daughter of Michael Caine's character, Doyle, played by Wes Bentley, and the robot, one of the best characters in the movie, Tars. No, it wasn't Tars that went down with him. It was the other one, Case. They go to the planet, the water planet, to retrieve a beacon, but they find that the planet's clearly uninhabitable because it's all water, 2-3 feet. Yet they're able to produce these gigantic tsunami-like tidal waves. Now, how does 2 feet of water have enough water to produce those bigger waves? How? If any of you that read this are scientists of the sort, and it is possible, please comment on the YouTube link of it, on the YouTube video of this video here, how that is possible. I'd like to know, okay? It's a science fiction movie. It's not a documentary. We know that. It is a movie nonetheless. And they do get a lot right in scientific accuracy, especially with relativity, all that good stuff. Kip Thorne, famous physicist, was a major consultant on the film and is credited as an executive producer. For those of you who don't know, this movie was announced so many years ago. Steven Spielberg was going to direct it. And you can tell because the movie has that kind of Spielberg vibe, especially with the relationship between Cooper and his daughter Murphy, who as a child was played beautifully by Mackenzie Foy, and as an adult was played by Jessica Chastain excellently. That whole strained relationship is a thing of Spielberg's. Jonathan Nolan, Chris Nolan's brother, had written the screenplay for the movie back when Spielberg was attached. Something happened, Spielberg had to leave the project was put on hold. Chris Nolan finished The Dark Knight Rises, the movie came out. Chris Nolan decided his next project was going to be his brother's screenplay, Interstellar. It's like, oh, y'all gonna make a movie of this, cool. Chris Nolan, with his genius self, decided, well, I'm gonna add elements that I came up with to the screenplay. I'm gonna write a screenplay to go with this, and we'll combine them. So I think maybe some of the plot problems may have been from combining 2 screenplays together like that. I'm thinking if they would have stuck to the one screenplay by Jonathan Nolan, then maybe plot-wise they wouldn't have had as many issues. But overall, I still think they made a pretty excellent movie. And I'll tell you this, if the original script was one that I read a synopsis on long before the movie came out, then I am glad that Chris Nolan intervened, because the original script went way more over the top, especially towards the end, than the final movie did. If you thought it went over the top in the movie, the original script, if it was an original script, had like these Chinese brand robots that were on a competitive mission through the wormhole, and they only landed at the ice planet. And there was no Dr. Man. It was just the robots versus the good guy astronauts. And yeah, it's like it was going to turn into Transformers. So I'm actually, if that was the original script, I'm glad they did change it to more of a, what it is now. They leave that planet. They go to Dr. Man's planet. And this is really no spoiler, because in the film, the full cast was announced. This actor's name was listed in the credits, everything. They announced him. They arrived there. Dr. Man's this brilliant scientist who headlined the whole mission. They all love him, think he's this big hero. They go to Miller's planet because he's still broadcasting. They're saying the planet's safe. Icy planet, similar to Hoth from Empire Strikes Back. Find this little place, wake him up, and his ta-da! Matt Damon! Oh, Matt Damon's in this movie. Cool. Comes off as a likable guy, but it's then revealed that their mission was a big fraud. That in reality, that there's no way that their plan A, which was find the suitable planet, then send the details back to Earth, and then they'll have the gravitational situation figured out on how to lift these giant starships they were building back on Earth by controlling gravity. Because Professor Brandt, Michael Caine's character, was the one trying to figure it out, and he couldn't. Why? Because he had already figured it out, but needed quantum data from the singularity of an actual black hole to really complete it. He revealed that while on his deathbed in the middle of the movie to Jessica Chastain's character, who decided that when she grew up, she's going to work for him. So Matt Damon decides that in reality the planet they're on is not safe, and he double crosses. Maybe he goes insane, whatever, but he reveals that the planet's not inhabitable, that he just got lonely and wanted to be rescued. Then he tries to kill Matthew McConaughey. Something he did results in the death of Romilly. I forgot the actor's name that plays him. Oh, by the way, the Wes Bentley dude, Doyle, he dies on the water planet. Don't get too attached to him. Don't get too attached to Romilly neither. So, okay. Tars survives the explosion that kills Romilly, which was a detonator set within the old robot that Dr. Man had to cover up his secret, which was, it's not a safe planet, it's not habitable. Here's my thing. He tries to get away with their ship, but they chase him down with another ship. Cool. If Dr. Man had any sense, despite the decisions he made, don't you think that instead of just trying to kill the good guys, being a bad guy, all he really had to do was tell the truth and say, look, the planet is really not habitable. I lied. I got lonely. I wanted to be rescued because I couldn't take it. I know. What would have happened? Yes, I think he would have been reprimanded severely by Cooper and Amelia. Maybe gotten a slight punch in the face, ass kicking, but he would have ultimately been forgiven, and they would have taken him to Edmund's planet, which is where Dr. Man tries to go to without Cooper and Amelia and the remaining robots. And he gets stupid because he tries to dock the ship that he's in with the Endurance, which is the name of the full spaceship that the main crew is in. And the airlock blows him out. Kills him. Yeah. It's like... So I'm thinking he got crazy for being alone that whole time, and that's what happened. But the film never explains that. I don't know if it's a good thing, bad thing, whatever. Good stuff comes next. Well, I'm telling you the whole plot of the movie, it sucks. Because I'm trying to tell you my criticisms. I'm probably just making fun of everything because it's a big, big movie, and it's just, even the stuff that works, you can't help but make fun of. But I'll tell you what, at first I criticized the climax, not the ending, but the climax of the movie for being a little too upbeat.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out I really think it works. And it does prove what the film was on the way to proving the whole time. They only have enough gas after the whole Matt Damon incident to get to the last third planet, which may be habitable. Not enough to get back home. And they don't really have enough gas to get there straight. So they have to go to the black hole, gargantuan, and slingshot around it, which would cause ugly time dilation of like 60-something years. Yeah.
68.
68 years, yeah.
I think.
Or 67. Yeah, we know that's in that area. But the effect, it just looks amazing, this black hole with a ring around it. It's one of those black holes. Now, in real scientific thing, and we're not going to really fault the film for any scientific inaccuracies, except the wave thing, because that was ridiculous. But like this, for instance, I won't fault. A supermassive black hole's ring like that would have so much radiation that them being in it like they were, they'd fry up and burn up like fuel. But they didn't. So, Cooper and Tars sacrifice themselves and detach from the Endurance to let Amelia continue and head to the Edmonds planet. In the process, Tars and Cooper get sucked into the black hole. You see Cooper. They go into the black hole. It's black, black, black. All of a sudden, Cooper has to eject from his ship. Okay. And you see him falling. It looks like this moon or planet. There's a bunch of squares on it. He gets closer, 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 closer. Falls through. And it looks like this giant infinite hallway he's falling through. Then he grabs on something and he stops. And it's this infinite bookcase of sorts. Just, wow. And he sees his daughter's bedroom in different time periods through these bookcases, through fabrics. Fabric. This is the smart part. Space and time is a fabric, and that's how he views it. And he realizes that he's the ghost at the same time that she, the adult Murph, back on Earth, realizes that her father was the ghost sending her these messages. And Tars is somewhere in that black hole, in that fifth dimensional space, as I like to call it too. He gets the quantum data, sends it to Cooper. Cooper uses, through the gravitational effect, sends through Morse code to his daughter's watch the data, and she's able to finish the gravitational equation, and now they can make those big spaceships. And oh man, it's just a lot. But in the film's actual ending, the only real problem I had, it ultimately was not as emotional as it should have been. It was the right ending. It's the way the film should have ended, but it was not played out as emotional as it should have been. His daughter was yearning for him to get back to her. He was yearning to get back to his daughter. He gets back to his daughter in a much more distant future thanks to time dilation on a gravitational space station orbiting Earth that they were able to make. His daughter, now an old woman, played by Ellen Bernstein. Also not a spoiler because she appears at the very beginning of the film in a documentary footage. He finally reunites with her. And like not 2 seconds in the conversation, she's like, you should go and find Amelia. She might be all alone on Edmund's planet. It's like, what the fuck? You yearn for him to come back. And you just see him for 2 seconds, and all of a sudden, you kind of don't want him there anymore. Wow. So he leaves. They built these little spaceships that can travel all around space, and he leaves and kind of steals one of these little spaceships with Tars. He repairs Tars. They go, and the film ends with an ambiguous shot. It ends ambiguously. We don't know if he and Tars ever made it to Edmund's planet, but what we do know, the way the film ends, is that Edmund's planet is habitable. because you do see Amelia take off her helmet on the planet and having set up the colony of the population bomb that was Plan B. And that was actually a good ending. It just was not emotional enough. So I don't fully fault the film for that, but knowing that Chris Nolan usually does a better job at that, yeah. The ending of The Dark Knight Rises I felt was very emotional. And that probably ended on a less than perfect note than this film did. Alright. You know, I've basically just explained the imperfections. I'm about to get to why the film is amazing, but I haven't let this sucker talk yet, so he's going to talk now. Hopefully he's got the energy.
You have basically said a lot that I was going to say, so it would kind of be pointless for me to even give more than about a 2-minute review here.
You had other opinions that I didn't have, including criticism.
Yes. One, I'm going to start off by saying a positive here. Especially seeing this in IMAX, this was like really amazing visually. I like the atmosphere of the film that they have with, this is probably one of the best looking movies that takes place in outer space. And, like, it's just visually, it's like probably the best thing I've seen in probably like 5 years, honestly. But, like, there's a lot of flaws in this movie. It's a lot I do agree with him about, but I have a little bit of a different flaws. The main one I'm gonna get to is the end. The ending was like a big disappointment for me. Totally. I mean, I didn't like the fact. It's a little bit what he said. I didn't like the whole fact that he returned back to his daughter as an old woman that's basically dying. I did not like that at all. I actually kind of wanted what was said at the beginning of the film, like, I'll be back when I'm your age. Like, I wanted it to end something like that. And that's not what happened. And actually do have to agree with him on this part, is that it wasn't emotional at the end. It was like, whatever. And, you know, then she dies. And I just...
We don't see her die,
in a lot of what you said, like, the more I think about this movie, there's just so much wrong with it besides visually. I mean, it's definitely a good movie, but I don't think it's quite the masterpiece it's made out to be by some people. But honestly, he basically gave like both of our reviews to this. But
well, I mean. And after, I found more flaws when I saw it the first time. Seeing it a couple more times, I found less, because things are a lot more clear when you saw it once. Remember, I saw it 3 times. I had gotten it fully by the second time. I saw it the third time so he could see it. And because I was desperate to see it again, because despite everything I just criticized for it, I loved it. Including the overall story. You know, I see what you're saying about that part of the ending. I agree and disagree, because yeah, it would have been cool. I think the original script had it to where the being that when he got to that future, they had the ability to travel through space and time anywhere, forward and backwards, and he was going to go backwards. And this original ending had him go backwards to when she was a little girl, to go back to where he left her off at. But then decides that because he has this technology now, he's going to go do space adventures.
I actually would have liked that idea, to be honest.
But I think part of being original means being slightly tragic, and ultimately that's why I figured story-wise the ending fully worked. I just felt it wasn't emotional enough. And a lot of people were complaining that his daughter should have been dead already, that it should have ended a lot more tragically than it did, you know. They were saying that, oh man, he actually gets to see his daughter. Maybe that would have worked more than him actually seeing his daughter as an old woman. What if it ended fully tragically? That he didn't get to see her. That could have been.
That would have been like really awful.
Yeah, but it's one of those somewhat sad, and it would have brought more emotion out.
It would have brought it definitely would have brought more of the emotional part to it. But at the end, it at the same time, it still would have been a complete disappointment.
So they decided, well, we want the happy ending, but we don't want to be too cliched about it.
Yeah.
If we brought Cooper back to either regular adult Cooper or little girl Cooper, it'd be too unrealistically of a happy ending and too cliched. Oh, but if we didn't bring him to his daughter at all, then it'd be too sad and too tragic. So let's compromise. Let's bring him to her when she's an old woman on her deathbed. And let's just get it out the way so quickly so that they don't have to do too many scenes, so that it doesn't have to be all about that. So she's like telling him to F off. No father should watch his daughter die, and I have my family with me. And another thing, because that wasn't his only child. He had a son too, who as an adult was played by Casey Affleck, who was kind of an asshole of a character.
He's kind of wasted of a character too, to be honest.
Because even though, alright, you hear about his daughter, but he never wonders what happened to his son when he arrives and is alive in the future. He didn't ask old Murph what happened to Tom. That's his name, Tom. And we're sure he died on Earth, maybe, whatever. But it's like, did he not give a shit about his son? I mean, yeah, parents can have their favorite children, but come on, man, don't be that guy. Love all your kids, regardless of their flaws. Seriously. There's probably plot contrivances, not holes, but contrivances that the film attempted to justify. Like, why couldn't they just send robots through the wormhole and get the data and send it back to Earth? In the movie, Cooper asked that to Doyle, and Doyle's simple answer is, robots can't improvise, humans can. I'm thinking, yeah, well, at least robots won't lie to you just to get rescued and betray you and shit like that, and they'll be honest with their data. And I think these robots, who, by the way, were some of the best characters in the movie, would have improvised, because they literally had human brains. They spoke like humans. I felt they were more humans than the humans in the film. And that's not faulting the human characters. See, getting to good now, every acting performance was superb. There wasn't a specific standout because,
I was about to mention that actually. Nobody's bad at all in this movie. Everybody's pretty, at least solid acting in this, but nobody's really a standout. Nobody basically, it's that person's show. Nobody outacts anybody here,
but that's good because
it
shouldn't be that way, especially of an ensemble, especially of a stellar cast like this.
But I actually really like the little girl that played the young version.
Oh yeah, Mackenzie Foy. Twilight fans would know her. Twilight fans would know her.
I've only seen the first Twilight movie.
No, she played their daughter in the last one. When they get married and have a kid, she was apparently the daughter. I didn't see it, I just know of it. But Mackenzie Foy is good.
Yeah, she is.
Oh man, precious little thing. And the film boasts a stellar cast in even the smallest appearances. I mean, you got John Lithgow playing Cooper's father-in-law in just a couple scenes. Like I said, Wes Bentley's in it as part of the team, but gets killed off quickly. We already mentioned.
Yes, the water outshined him.
The water that was only 2 to 3 feet, but somehow can produce a 1,000-foot tidal wave.
I have to say, even though that scene makes no sense, that was beautifully filmed.
It was. Well, no, in terms of story, it makes sense.
Like it was actually like the water was actually almost like a horror or something. Like
it was. It was peril. That's what you call it. No, story-wise, the scenes makes perfect sense because it showed the gravitational effect of what the black hole was doing. It's a tidal wave. It was a tide. What was really happening was that the wave was not moving to them. They were moving to what was really just this big clump of lifted water. That's how tides on the Earth work. When the moon, whatever part of the Earth the moon flies over, the water is higher. It's not that the water is moving. It's that we're the ones that are moving, and the water simply just kind of gets higher as we're close to the moon. But to us it looks like it's moving because of gravity. What was that? Cass, yeah. I mean, even Topher Grace appears towards the end as a colleague of adult Murph. Nothing. He's good at his role, but nothing special, nothing like dramatic or anything. He's Topher Grace, not being funny, but not being like depressing or anything. Just Topher Grace in that kind of role, what you'd expect from him. I mean, Anne Hathaway is phenomenal. So is Jessica Chastain as adult Murph. Again, Casey Affleck is good, but his character's kind of a dick as the adult Tom. A plot point of the movie that's barely touched up upon is that him and his wife had a son, a baby that they named Jesse, but died, I guess, as an infant. They have another baby, a son named Coop, and Coop grows to be a young child, and you see this child, but you see young Coop, Coop Jr., Coop the Second, whatever they want to call him, get sick. And the wife starts getting sick too because of the crop issue and all the dust that they're not going to survive. They keep living on the farm. Casey Affleck, Tom, does not have this problem because he's adapted to it. So of course, Murph and the colleague, Topher Grace's character, who I think is a physician. He's like a physician for NASA, like the company doctor, so to speak. Takes a look at them and says they got to get out of there, but Casey Affleck, Tom, comes in, punches him in the face and says, "We ain't leaving." And his sister, Murph, is like, "At least let them go." He's like, "Nobody's going."
You know who you reminded me of singing that, right?
Tommy Lee Jones from Batman Forever?
No.
Okay.
Some guy we know in person.
Okay. We'll make another video about our in-jokes.
That's why I laughed as hard as
That's not how Casey Affleck acts. I'm just saying, I like to mock people and whatnot. Think of Casey Affleck just in a soft-spoken, angry, and that's how he did it. You're like, "Nobody is leaving." That's more like how he did it. Jesse James. I love Casey. He's a great actor. He deserves to be in bigger roles than this, but at least he had the opportunity to be in a movie of this stellar size, even if it wasn't one of the astronauts. Whatever. So why the movie blows me away despite all the crap we talked about it? Let's see. For one, the science of it all. For one, the visual aspect. No film has depicted space so realistically. Very little CGI was used. It was a lot of, you could tell they used a lot of old school realistic using miniatures and models and fully built sets. And if they were in the shuttle looking out into space, they didn't use green screen. They used specially built and painted backdrops. And it's good for the actors because they could really act out their parts better if they see everything. So the score by Hans Zimmer is just, this film will win Oscars in the technical category for
Definitely.
sure. The visual effects, the editing, and the
score,
score that Hans Zimmer made is just out of this world. Using a lot of electronic pianos, as well as string sections, horn sections, and a unique type of synthetic piano. I do not know what instrument it was trying to mimic, but the soft theme to the film, that one, that particular notes, it was not a regular piano. It sounded like this type of bell of the sort. I've never heard it before, but it worked and it was amazing. The whole score, it's just epic. And there's moments of the score that sound like they could have been like in 2001: A Space Odyssey. So the movie pays good homage to that movie, but no, it did not quite reach that movie's level in terms of perfection. But and it's a very emotional film up until the ending. And it is a good premise, dealing with a lot of struggle and family, love. I have mixed opinions on the whole love is what the real science is that they explain in the movie. I don't know how, but that's whatever. That's not a flaw in the movie. That's just something that I don't agree with. But they the shots of the wormhole, like I said, and the black hole itself were just like,
Black Hole
wow.
was amazing.
When they got close to it, and you see big, and you see how like the edges of both the wormhole and the black hole, how they had the lensing effect to the space around it, kind of like when looking out of a cracked window, so to speak. You know that, or looking through water, and how it like bends what you see underwater, so to speak. It did that, and I think that's really how it would happen. Just the visual was so perfect, and the film was good about so many other minor things too. Like, it was smart enough, like on Earth, to not mention a specific year or location. That way, if it was set in a distant future, we wouldn't have had to be like, well, they'd have a lot more than that by now. If it was set in a not too distant future, we wouldn't be like, well, that's not going to happen by then. So it didn't give a specific year. It was ambiguous, and that was good because it let us think whatever future it could be.
And now that you mentioned that, yeah, I was trying to think what time era this whole entire movie was.
It really could have been an alternate present day.
That's what I was thinking.
You see movies that are set in an alternate type of present day, and I think that works too. You learn that they're educating kids to believe that the original Apollo missions were frauds to bankrupt the Soviet Union. The hot blonde chick from Hot Tub Time Machine has appearance in one scene as a teacher during a parent-teacher conference meeting with Cooper. Also in that scene is David. I can't pronounce his last name, but that popular actor who was in.
It's coming up in Selma.
Yeah, he's playing Martin Luther King. And he was in The Butler last year. He plays the principal. Anywho, that hot blonde plays a character named Miss. I forgot her name, but talking about, well, Murph behaves badly in school because she believes that the Apollo missions were real, and you need to talk to her. She's this woman, this actress. It's like, man, I've always only seen her as a ditzy character, party animal in like comedy movies, and here she is in this one scene playing this kind of serious teacher, and she looks cute, and she's good at it. So
she's good at it.
She is. In this one scene, she's good at it. I hope she gets bigger. The cornfield chase scene where they find the drone flying at the beginning. It felt senseless at first. Again, after seeing it a couple times, you realize the importance of that scene. It just kind of shows. You understand that it must have been flying around there because it was looking for something. It's probably attracted to the gravitational effect happening in the Cooper home. And it also shows that artificial intelligent technology is just running rampart in this world ever since they shut down all these programs. So, and the battery inside this drone can power a field. So that's why he takes it. So I was like, what's the point of the scene? Whatever. It's a fun scene. Even though I don't think in real life a truck with a flat tire can drive that well in a cornfield. But and there's so much the film got right that it's hard to explain. Every little shot of space, even them docking at the Endurance for the first time when they just got shot up into space, is just thrilling. The planets look pretty good, especially Dr. Mann's planet, which is, like I said, this ice world. The clouds are even ice. They look like regular clouds from a distance, but if they touch it, they fly by it, it chips. It's like, oh, it's ice. And Edmund's planet just looks like this little version of Earth. You only see that briefly at the end. Yeah, the film got so much right that it's hard to explain the best stuff. You got anything to say?
Just our ratings on it, I guess.
See, I'm gonna give what seems to be a higher rating than it may deserve because of how much is said wrong about it, but the good stuff does, I think, outweigh the bad. So I'm gonna give it a 3.5. It probably should get a regular 3. I'll give it a 3.5 because, despite being a flawed film, this film blew me away, drew me in, and just made me not sleep for days just because of how incredible it was, despite the problems. Suspension of disbelief. You forget the film's plot holes and contrivances when you're blown away by the rest of the film, and I just have to award it a 3.5 for that reason. You know, if I wasn't that drawn into it, then it probably would have been like a 3 or even a 2.5. But they pulled me in, man. They pulled me in.
I have a similar opinion to you. I was very drawn to this movie visually, and that's mostly what I'm thinking about after this movie. It's almost like you're on this like roller coaster ride that's just taking you through here, but at the same time, it's like I wasn't really that moved by anything else in this movie. But there's definitely things to definitely say about this movie, and I was gonna actually give it a 2.5 the more I've thought about it over the weeks, but it is a good movie. It's not great, but it is good, and I cannot not recommend it. So I'm gonna give it as fair as I can and say it's gonna be a 3 for me.
That's reasonable. By the way, there is one scene that just had me, every time I saw it, just had me on the very edge of my seat. There's this unique scene when I mentioned Matt Damon's character, Dr. Mann. He tries to dock with the Endurance and fails miserably. When the airlock blows, it sends the Endurance spinning out of control, and Cooper's like, we're going to try and dock with it. And man, how it plays out and what he does to spin, like, just had me like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. It's, in terms of edge of your seat thrills, it is the most thrilling scene in the movie. It's not even that big a deal. It's not the most moving scene in the movie, it's the most thrilling scene, you know. Like, I found them orbiting the black hole to be more moving, but not as thrilling, you know. But, like I said, the film ended the way it should have, just didn't make it as emotional as it should have. And Chris Nolan is so much better than that. Yeah, I really recommend y'all go see this, IMAX especially. But it's definitely a theater experience movie. See, I'm comparing it to his other movie, Inception. Now, another original of his from a few years ago. Inception was better, not bigger, but better. Not as emotional, but better, because at least things were a lot more clear in it. Not the first time around, but they were a lot more clear. You know, because it was one screenplay written by just Christopher Nolan, not him and his brother. They should have just stuck to one screenplay, and this probably would have been the greatest space adventure of all time.
Yeah.
Instead, it's only closest to being the greatest space adventure of all time.
Visually, yes.
Yes.
It is.
And,
Visually.
you know, and in a story aspect, just if it weren't for the contrivances and maybe some of the holes, then it would have been the greatest. But it's not up there with 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's not up there with some of the Empire Strikes Back. That's a not fair comparison because it's a space opera, but
it makes Armageddon look like from Justin to Kelly.
Well,
Any
any good sci-fi movie set in space will make Armageddon look that way. I'll tell you this is a big plus, is that it's actually better than Gravity. I'll say that. On a scientific level especially. Because Gravity, even though it made you think it was scientifically realistic, it wasn't.
I've only seen about 20 minutes of Gravity.
Yeah. Gravity, what they got right was the no sound in space. This movie got the no sound in space right, and then a lot more. Then of course there's some liberties they took with the science, but that's not a problem. You know, it's a movie, not a documentary. There's gonna be liberties they take with the science, like the tidal wave, like the fact that in reality that for a wormhole as such to get them through clean without being ripped to shreds, it would have to be the size of 1,000 of our suns, if we can even get a wormhole to exist. You know, the fact that they burn up when getting that close to the black hole because of the radiation. You know, of course. But that's not enough suspension of disbelief can make that. That's not a flaw. That's just if it works in the movie, fine. You know.
The more I thought about this, I wonder what a remake, directed by Christopher Nolan, of Plan 9 from Outer Space would be.
Oh God!
I'm
If
joking.
Chris Nolan ever wanted to get not so serious and make something a little bit more goofy, that it would be the way to go. He stated recently he'll never direct a comedy because you're not sure if you're going to please people or not. He's one of my favorite filmmakers, but recently he's lost just a few brownie points for me, for a couple reasons. One of the reasons is for why he gave a cop-out excuse to never make a comedy. He's basically saying that he's not going to take a chance, and a good director will take a chance, and if he fails, he fails. Give it a shot, Nolan. You might be good at it. James Cameron was when he did True Lies. He did nothing but serious shit before True Lies, and he did True Lies, and that movie is like the funniest action comedy ever.
It is funny.
It
I'm not the
is
biggest fan
hysterical.
of it, but it is funny.
If he can do it, and I hear about how stuck up James Cameron is, if he can get away with it, so can you, Nolan. But that's on you. Damn, longest review yet. Well, I said we had a lot to say. All right, we gave our star reviews. That's it. All right.